The convention is next week, the DNC, and they've got two huge problems at the convention. Problem number one is Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a problem because he's still lingering around the edges. He's still hanging around, whining about the fact that he was forced to drop out of the race by his own insiders, that he was stabbed in the back by Brutus and company. The New York Times has a piece where he's complaining about this. So you're going to get this kind of whining all the way up until the election. In the end, he was alone, confined to a spare bedroom in his vacation home, fighting off bouts of coughing from COVID. President Biden was exhausted when he turned in for the night on Saturday, July 20th. Whether he slept soundly or fitfully or not at all, people close to him said he took the long hours by himself to mull over the historic decision he was about to make. He had just been through a brutal 2 days in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, as he huddled with his wife, Jill Biden, and his closest aides, who rotated from a screened-in porch to a sitting area off the dining room. Steve Ricchetti, the president's eyes and ears on Capitol Hill, and Mike Donilon, his chief strategist, had shared internal polling with the president that Saturday that mirrored what Americans had been seeing for weeks. Mr. Biden was falling behind nationally and in key battleground states. There was still a path to victory, they advised him, but the fight would be ugly. The president would be pitted against his donors, half his party in Congress, and Democratic voters who had concluded he was too old to win. By that Saturday evening, something had shifted. It was not just about the polls, people close to Biden say. Despite everything, Biden believed he could still claim the Democratic nomination and beat former President Donald Trump. Aides say he still believes that. What began to change the president's mind, people familiar with his thinking say, was the realization that if he stayed in the race, he was in for a lonely battle that would rip apart the Democratic Party, the cause he had served nearly his entire life. Now, first of all, we should point out, you shouldn't serve a party your entire life. You should not. That is pretty ugly stuff, in fact. You should serve an idea. You should serve the American people. You shouldn't serve a party. If your cause is the party, kind of reeks of socialist, communist Russia. That's what that reeks of. Would a man who views himself as the ultimate consensus builder in Washington want to wage an intra-party war that would run counter to the fabric of who he is? That day, Biden asked a key question. If we were going to do it, Biden asked his two advisors, what would we say? And they drafted the statement, and then they went out and basically tweeted it out there while he was asleep or something. Okay, so one problem for Kamala Harris is that Joe Biden is still around, and he's still presidenting despite the fact that he is now a zombie candidate. He is still a zombie president, and he's still kind of a zombie candidate because he's out there, and his policies are the ones she is running on. And he has an interest in not allowing Kamala Harris to throw him under the bus. So as you said earlier, he's very unpopular. His policies are very unpopular, which means Kamala Harris has to do two things: run and hide from the press and dissociate from Biden. But if you're Biden, you don't want Harris dissociating from you. What you want is for Harris to win off your back. What you want is for Harris to win, but you want to be seen as the reason she won, not the reason she lost. You want to be seen as the person who stepped aside and then handed her the keys to the kingdom, and it was your generosity and the magic of your successful policies that allowed for the first black woman president. That's what you want if you are Joe Biden. So yesterday at the White House, Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about the fact that Kamala Harris is pretty obviously telegraphing she wants to distance herself from Biden. And Karine Jean-Pierre, speaking on behalf of Joe Biden, was like, nope. You get right back here right now. We are stapling you to his pant leg.
Axios is now reporting that she is hoping to distance herself from President Biden's unpopularity on the economy. Can you blame her?
Do you know this is the Biden-Harris administration? Are you aware that this is the Biden-Harris administration? And she is indeed the vice president.
But if the president's policies on the economy were working, or if they were popular, wouldn't he still be the candidate?
You literally just had the chair of the CEA here who laid out a pretty robust point by point about the economy and what has happened under the Biden-Harris administration. And I thought it was pretty convincing.
Biden-Harris, Biden-Harris, Biden-Harris. So Biden is now effectively cutting commercials on behalf of Donald Trump because Joe Biden is unpopular, but he can't admit that he's unpopular. And so he is still going to insist that Harris is his candidate. That's the idea. And he's particularly going to do that because he understands the rest of the Democratic Party wishes to cut him off from the party and shove him out to sea. According to Politico, Joe Biden is frustrated that Barack Obama wouldn't tell him to his face he should leave the race, which, by the way, is the most Obama thing ever. Obama deployed all of his forces to oust Joe Biden from the race, but he's too much of a coward to ever just confront Joe Biden and take the lead. Always leading from behind, that Barack Obama. He's angry with Nancy Pelosi and views her as ruthless for ushering him out the door. He's miffed at the role Chuck Schumer played too, according to Politico. Biden has told his closest aides and associates he's coming to terms with his decision to bow out, but still harbors some frustration toward the members of his own party he believes pushed him out, according to three people familiar with Biden's thinking. So this thing is just going to percolate, and it's just going to sit there in the middle of the room at the DNC And it's going to be kind of awkward. Tim Walz, proud of his service. How proud is he of the unrest that happened in Minnesota under his watch? You know, when half the city burned down? Well, it's for times like that you might be thinking about Burna. Now listen, I'm about as pro-Second Amendment as it gets, but the thought of using lethal force is not ideal for everybody, which is why you need to check out Burna. And there are a lot of situations in life, unfortunately, where you might need self-defense. You might also not want to fire a gun at somebody if you can avoid it because, again, the consequences can be disastrous, not just for the person you're shooting, but also for you or your family. God forbid a mistake. There are tons of reasons why you might need the Burna Ungun, the non-lethal self-defense platform. Lightweight, simple to use. It uses an easy-to-load 5-round magazine and is powered by an 8-gram CO2 cartridge. Burna launchers fire a 68 caliber chemical-filled projectile using patented pull-pierce technology where the CO2 canister is only punctured on the first trigger pull, meaning your launcher is always at the ready. It's capable of incapacitating an attacker for over 30 minutes. It's accurate and effective at over 60 feet. Requires no permits, no background checks. It's interstate travel friendly. With Burna, you will be prepared to defend. The Burna is a safer, more sensible alternative that could potentially save lives on both sides, protecting both the user and the aggressor. Visit Burna.com/Ben. Get 10% off your purchase. That's BYRNA.com/Ben. Check out the latest news about Burna. That's BYRNA.com/Ben. So the media are trying to help Kamala Harris out by actively shooting holes in Joe Biden. That's what they're going to do now. So now, finally, after years of not reporting on Hunter Biden, they're going to report on Hunter Biden. Because now it's time. You couldn't do it before the 2020 election because then Joe Biden might lose. And you couldn't do it for the first 3 years of the administration because then Joe Biden might lose. But now that he's not the candidate and they need to get him away from Kamala Harris as fast as possible, get the stank of defeat away from Kamala Harris, now they're perfectly willing to open up their guns on Hunter Biden. According to the New York Times, Hunter Biden sought assistance from the U.S. government for a potentially lucrative energy project in Italy while his father was vice president, according to newly released records and interviews. The records, which the Biden administration had withheld for years, indicate Hunter Biden wrote at least one letter to the U.S. ambassador to Italy in 2016 seeking assistance for Burisma, where he was a board member. Embassy officials appear to have been uneasy with the request from the son of a sitting vice president on behalf of a foreign company. I want to be careful about promising too much, wrote a Commerce Department official based at the U.S. Embassy in Rome. This is a Ukrainian company. Purely to protect ourselves, the U.S. government should not be actively advocating with the government of Italy without the company going through the DOC Advocacy Center, the official wrote. Abby Lowell, a lawyer for Biden, said his client, quote, asked various people, including the U.S. ambassador to Italy at the time, whether they could arrange an introduction between Burisma and the president of the Tuscany region of Italy, where Burisma was pursuing a geothermal project. A White House spokesman said the president was unaware when he was vice president. Why are we seeing this reporting now? This happened all the way back when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States in 2016. It is now, I checked the calendar, the year 2024. Why are we only seeing this now? And the answer is because the media are finally beginning to open up on Hunter. Why? As a way to get Joe. Why? Because they need Joe shuttled off to the side. They need something that implicates Joe but does not implicate Kamala. So it can't be policy. It can't be the failures of the administration. So now you're going to see, over the next few weeks, stories about Joe Biden, corruption in the Biden family, more reasons why Joe Biden couldn't be the presidential nominee and why Kamala Harris is so wildly different from Joe Biden. Here, for example, is a CNN reporter saying, well, this doesn't look great.
Does this play? What does Harris do about this? Anything?
I mean, it's not Kamala Harris's son, and so there's a little bit more distance than when it was the presidential nominee's son. This isn't great. Hunter Biden, everybody in the White House has known for a long time as an issue. The way that that his lawyers responded to this disclosure to say, like, well, yeah, he sent letters but did nothing wrong. It doesn't. This feels very strange to people that the vice president's son was sending letters or making requests to other government officials.
Well, I mean, that's weird that all of a sudden now you're covering Hunter Biden. Weird, because you guys covered it up for like years. But now you're covering it. That's strange. Almost as though you're doing the bidding of the Kamala Harris campaign. Okay, so that is going to be a problem for Kamala Harris. She must separate off from Joe Biden, but Joe Biden doesn't want to separate off from her. So that will be an ongoing problem all the way up till the election. And every campaign ad that the Trump campaign cuts needs to have the picture of the two of them holding their hands in triumph just about a month ago at the White House. That's what they need, because Kamala is Joe Biden's heir in every apparent way. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Facts, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.